Okay, next we have the Tale of Gloucester. And this is a long tale, but very interesting. So cozy up with your favorite stuffed animal, and then we'll sit here and listen to this story. In the time of swords and periwigs and full-skirted coats with flowered lappets, when gentlemen wore ruffles and gold-laced waistcoats of potasoy and taffeta, there lived a tailor in Gloucester. He sat in the window of a little shop on Westgate Street, cross-legged on a table from morning till dark. All day long, while the light lasted, he sewed and snipped, piecing out his satin and pompadour and lute-string. Stuffs had strange names, and were very expensive in the days of the Tailor of Gloucester. But although he sewed fine silk for his neighbors, he himself was very poor. A little old man in spectacles, with a pinched face and crooked fingers, and a suit of threadbare clothes. He cut his coats without waist. According to his embroidered cloth, they were very small ends and snippets that lay upon the table, too narrow for the breadths for naught, except waistcoats for mice, said the tailor. One bitter, cold day near Christmas time, the tailor began to make a coat of cherry-colored corded silk embroidered with pansies and roses, and a cream-colored satin waistcoat trimmed with gauze and green worsted chenille, all for the Mayor of Gloucester. Sounds so fancy. The tailor worked and worked. He talked to himself. He measured the silk and turned it round and trimmed it into shape with his shears. The table was all littered with cherry-colored snippets. No breadth at all, and cut on the cross, and it's no breadth at all. Tippets for mice and ribbons for mobs for mice, said the Tailor of Gloucester. When all the snowflakes came down against the small leaded window panes and shut out the light, the tailor had done his work. All the silk and satin lay cut upon the floor. There were 12 pieces for the coat and 4 pieces for the waistcoat, and there were pockets and flaps and cuffs and buttons, all in order. For the lining of the coat there was a fine yellow taffeta, and the buttonholes of the waistcoat there was cherry-colored twist, and everything was ready to sew together in the morning, all measured and sufficient, except there was wanting just one single skein of cherry-colored twisted silk. The tailor came out of his shop at dark, for he did not sleep there at night. He fastened the window and locked the door, and took away the key. No one lived there at night but little brown mice, and they run about without any keys. For behind the wooden wainscots of the old houses in Gloucester, there are little staircases and secret trapdoors, and the mice run from house to house through the long, narrow passages. They can run all over town without going into the streets. But the tailor came out of his shop and shuffled home through the snow. He lived quite nearby in College Court, next the doorway to College Green, and although it was not a big house, the tailor was so poor he only rented a kitchen. He lived alone with his cat, who was called Simpkin. Now, all day long, while the tailor was at work, Simpkin kept the house by himself. He was also fond of mice, though he gave them no satin for coats. "Yeah," said the cat when the tailor opened the door. "Yeah." The tailor replied, "Simpkin, we shall make our fortune, but I am worn to raveling. Take this grout, which is our last 4pence, and Simpkin, take the china pipkin and buy a pennyworth of bread, a pennyworth of milk, and a pennyworth of sausages." He's sending his cat out to do grocery shopping. "And oh, Simpkin, with the last penny and a 4pence, to buy me one Pennyworth of cherry-colored silk, but do not lose the last penny of the fourpence, Simpkin, or I am undone and worn to thread paper, for I have no more twist. Then Simpkin again said, meow, and took the grout and the pipkin and went out into the dark. The tailor was very tired and was beginning to be ill. He sat down by the hearth and talked to himself about the wonderful coat. I shall make my fortune. To be cut bias, the mayor of Gloucester is to be married on Christmas Day. In the morning he hath ordered a coat and an embroidered waistcoat to be lined with yellow taffeta, and the taffeta sufficeth. There is no more left over in the snippets that will serve to make tippets for mice. And then the tailor started, for suddenly interrupting him, from the dresser of the other side of the kitchen came a number of little noises. Tip, 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 tip. Now what can that be? Said the Tailor of Gloucester, jumping up from his chair. The dresser was covered with crockery and pipkins, willow patterned plates, and teacups and mugs. The tailor crossed the kitchen and stood quite still beside the dresser, listening and peering through his spectacles. Again, from under the teacup came those funny little noises. Tip, 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 tip. This is very peculiar, said the Tailor of Gloucester, and he lifted up the teacup, which was upside down. Out stepped a little live lady mouse and made a curtsy to the tailor. Then she hopped off down the dresser and under the waistcoat. The tailor sat down again by the fire, warming his poor cold hands and mumbling to himself. A waistcoat is cut from the peach-colored satin, tambour stitch and rosebuds and beautiful floss silk. Was I wise to entrust my last fourpence to Simpkin? 21 buttonholes of cherry-colored twist. But all at once from the dresser there came other noises. Tip, 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 tip. This is passing extraordinary, said the Tailor of Gloucester, and turned over another teacup, which was upside down. Out stepped a little gentleman mouse, who made a bow to the tailor. Then from all over the dresser came a chorus of little tappings, all sounding together, one answering another like watch beetles. In a worm-eating window shutter, tip, 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 and out from under the teacups, from under the bowls and basins, stepped other and more little mice, who hopped down from the dresser under the waistcoat. The tailor sat down close over the fire, lamenting, 21 buttonholes of cherry-colored silk, to be finished by noon on Saturday, and this is Tuesday evening. Was it right to let loose the mice? Undoubtedly, the property of Simpkin. Alack, I am undone, for I have no more twist. The little mice came out again and listened to the tailor. They took notice of the pattern and the wonderful coat. They whispered to one another about the taffeta lining and about the little mouse tippets. Then all at once they ran away together down the passage behind the wainscot, squeaking and calling to one another as they ran from house to house, and not one mouse was left in the tailor's kitchen when Simpkin came back with a pipkin of milk. Simpkin opened the door and bounded in with an angry grrr, meow, like a cat that is vexed, for he hated the snow, and there was snow in his ears, and snow in his collar and on his back and his neck. He put down the loaf and the sausages upon the dresser and sniffed. Simpkin, said the tailor, where's my twist? But Simpkin set down the pipkin of milk on the dresser. I wonder if we should do this in two. We're going to take a break.